Let me start with a simple question, and I'll give you 5 seconds to answer it. How long do you think a single small amount of alcohol affects your brain? Let's say one beer, one drink. What came to your mind? An hour? 2 hours? Maybe you believe that one beer doesn't even count as alcohol, or perhaps you think you have a strong tolerance so you can drink much more than that and still feel completely sober. But today, we're not going to talk about sobriety. Today, we're going to talk about what alcohol actually does to you, long after you stop feeling it. So let me give you the answer right away. At least 6 weeks. You can laugh, you can roll your eyes, but I'm about to show you why. Alcohol affects you far longer than you think, and far longer than you can physically feel it. Imagine you're getting ready to go out tonight, or maybe you're watching this after a weekend party, so you've already been through it. You go out, you have a few drinks, you're having fun with your friends. Sure, you know you might have a slight hangover the next morning, but hey, you're prepared for that sacrifice. You wake up, you feel surprisingly fine. You get back to your normal routine almost immediately. Maybe you even go to the gym, do your shopping, or visit your family for lunch. And you are completely unaware that the night before, your brain went through something similar to a microstroke. This isn't a joke. There's what you consciously feel after drinking. And then there's what alcohol actually does inside your brain. That conscious stage, the one we all know, scientists sometimes call the 2-hour high. For about 2 hours, you feel lighter, freer, slightly braver than usual. You talk as if someone took the filter off your brain. You laugh, relax, connect with strangers like you've known them for years. People love that moment because they feel more themselves. Time passes, you start sobering up, and you think you're back to normal. But research shows something very different. Your brain does not start regenerating the moment you sober up, not after 2 to 3 hours, not when the breathalyzer shows 0. Even when you feel completely fine, something is still happening in your brain, and it is not recovery. And trust me, I know how hard this is to believe. I was shocked myself when I learned this. But for the next 6 weeks after alcohol leaves your body, even after a small amount, your brain is still being affected. These effects touch incredibly important regions, responsible for communication between the hemispheres, memory, and spatial orientation, the reward system, your sense of pleasure, decision-making, and self-control. In other words, alcohol disappears from your blood in a few hours, but it disappears from your brain only after many weeks. And here comes the question most people eventually ask. If alcohol affects me for this long, why can't I feel it? The answer is surprisingly simple. The brain has no pain receptors. It has no way to report tiny injuries, microdisruptions, or imbalances in neurotransmitters. When your stomach hurts, you get a signal. When your knee hurts, you get a signal. Even when your liver is overloaded, you often feel some discomfort. But the brain? The brain simply adapts. It keeps going the best it can. And we assume that if nothing hurts, everything must be fine. It's a bit like lightly damaging the structure of a bridge every single day. Slowly, almost imperceptibly. The bridge won't collapse after one hit. It won't collapse after 10, but its structure will slowly weaken. And you'll only notice the problem once it starts to bend under weight. The brain works in a similar way. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't scream. It doesn't send alarm signals in a way we're used to. Instead, we get subtle signs. Worse sleep even though nothing happened, trouble focusing, lower motivation, irritability without a clear reason, a stronger craving for sugar or for another drink. These are the quiet, delicate consequences we almost never associate with alcohol because they don't show up after an hour, but after a few days, and sometimes after many weeks. Let's go back to what scientists compare to microstrokes. In one study, researchers noticed that when alcohol disappears from your breath, the brain stays foggy for a long time. After a dose roughly equivalent to 150 grams of vodka, the brain reacted as if it had gone through a microstroke-like event. This so-called microstroke describes what happens in the neurons after drinking: a sudden disruption, a momentary shutdown, and then a very slow reboot. And here's the important part. Every additional drink triggers another one of these events. So during a single party, you may experience several microstrokes. If you drink 1 glass of wine every evening, you're essentially giving yourself 1 microstroke a day. And now you might wonder, so what's the lesser evil? Drinking rarely but more intensely, or drinking small amounts more often? Unfortunately, I don't have good news for you. Every portion of alcohol, large or small, leaves a mark on the brain. After each drink, even the smallest one, your brain needs about 6 weeks to stabilize. Only then can it slowly return to balance. A full recovery can take up to 3 months. What does this mean in practice? If you drink a little but every day, you're triggering a microstroke every day. If you drink only on weekends, your brain never has time to fully recover. And even if you drink rarely, say once every 3 months, your brain still never reaches full regenerative equilibrium. This is why I believe today's topic is so important. Alcohol itself is the problem, not how often you drink, not whether it's a glass of wine with dinner or a few cocktails once in a while, simply whether you drink alcohol at all. There's one more issue with alcohol. It's a carcinogen, and this isn't an opinion or an interpretation. It's an official scientific classification. In one of the largest long-term studies published in The Lancet, the medical world's Bible, researchers analyzed over 2 decades of data. The conclusion was clear. Alcohol is carcinogenic. People who drink regularly develop certain cancers more often than people who do not drink at all. Of course, this doesn't mean that if you drink tonight, you'll get cancer tomorrow. But every time you drink, you increase your long-term risk. It's a bit like diving headfirst into unknown water. It doesn't guarantee you'll break your neck. You might do it dozens of times without consequences. But the more often you do it, the higher your chances of ending up in a wheelchair. It's not certainty, it's risk. And alcohol works the same way. I can imagine that you might be feeling many things right now. We live in a culture built around alcohol. We celebrate with alcohol. We socialize with alcohol. Many people can't imagine having fun without it. So, of course, we drink. Alcohol boosts oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It lowers tension. It makes us feel more free. That's exactly why it's so hard to accept that this same substance causes so much long-term damage. Personally, I quit alcohol almost by accident. I noticed that after an evening drink, my workouts were terrible. My muscles hurt, I felt fatigued, I couldn't recover, and since training was my priority, giving up alcohol was an easy choice. Only later did I realize what a huge favor I had unknowingly done for myself. Did you know what alcohol actually does to us? Do you drink regularly? Are you trying to cut down? Or have you quit completely? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if you enjoy this kind of content, leave a like, a comment, and a subscription. It really helps me grow this channel. See you in the next video.